Welcome to the free Successful Events course, open course. Today's topic is about how to manage your timetable and how to plan an event timeline in terms of project management. Hit thumbs up if you want more events related content. Make sure you have subscribed to the channel too. Hello there everyone! To plan an event timeline is the projection of your activities, when they are due, who is responsible, and what is needed for their completion. When all activities are done before the final deadline, you have achieved your ideal event. In the most basic model, when you have a schedule, you know when each task has to be accomplished. Setting up a schedule is essential for any project, for you to be more efficient in allocating your resources, and you don't have to rely just on your memory. In addition, planning your event timetable will help you prioritize, because during the event organization, many ideas come up and it's important to put them in perspective. What should be done, what should be postponed, and what will not be done at all. Setting a timetable is a more objective way for you to be able to make these decisions, because you'll be clear about the state of your events and what is still pending. How to plan event timeline for the first time. There are some timetable templates for events in which you also put the task duration time, that is, if you have the end date and the duration time. Now we have the start dates. This is great for you to find out when you should start work. There are tasks that take you longer, others that take you less. It's natural. When you do this basic construction, you begin to get an idea of simultaneous activities as well, their workload. Usually, the closer to the event, the greater your workload, because there are several activities that you can only or will only want to start when your event is closed and are 100% confirmed that it will happen. This increases the stress load. That's why I say that setting a schedule helps you, in addition to reduce the fatigue of your team, because it reduces the anxiety of always forgetting something. It's very common when organizing the event that you have that feeling of missing something. Take some quality time to plan an event timeline will help you reduce that feeling. There are several ways to plan an event timeline. If you aren't the event manager, it is important to check with the responsible what their preferences are in terms of how the rules they like to follow. If you are the manager, you want to define a task tracking method and pass it on to your team so they know what to expect. There are people who like the schedule to be updated in real time. Others who do not mind that it is updated only before the meeting. There are people who like a lot of notes and comments, and some people who are okay only listening to your feedback. Also, there are people who like to work with priority definitions, while others just don't care. Anyway, it varies a lot from manager to manager. The important thing is to be aware of that and define those terms in advance. As you can see, there are several ways to plan an event timeline. I will explain here what is most common to see and some examples. Timeline templates for events. The most basic template is a task after task listing with its due date. This is the simplest model, which the vast majority of to-do lists do. If you search for to-do list app on Google, you will find a variety that does this. Virtually all schedules start as a list or Excel spreadsheet. Now we are adding columns to increase complexity according to the type of information we need. Even Microsoft project management software looks like a spreadsheet. As I mentioned, you can have the start date and duration so that you'll be able to build a Gantt chart. This is a visual representation of your schedule in which you'll be able to view the sequence of activities. Then we can add responsible and priority columns. This is essential when you have a team of more than just two people. In reality, if you have two people, you already want to make the responsibilities clear. But understand that it's more common to use this when there are more members. That way, people can easily access their tasks. Project tools like Asana allow you to easily access your tasks and filter through yours in a long list. Priority is when you define what is important urgent on either. It is important that you enter a criteria of what each degree of importance means. For example, in a job I had, urgent meant it had to be done in the next 48 hours. Important meant it had to be done in a week. If you did all your unimportant activities and didn't do the important ones, it raised a flag for the team. In another work, important meant the focus of the week. It was urgent if it would be the first thing to be done after leaving the meeting and needed the resolution that week. Obviously, you can have a feud about the status of the task, if it is in progress, if it's pending from third parties, if it's completed, if it's inactive, or has not started yet. Anyway, you can create your terminology to determine the status of your activity. This will be important when you want to know what is currently in progress or not. A concept that people often have difficulty with is dependent tasks, that is, activities that depend on another to be started or completed. Imagine that you have to have sponsorship sales at your events. You can only start sales if you have the list of companies to be approached, right? This is a dependency. You can't start selling until you have the list of companies to call. At the same time, you cannot call companies if you have not finished your proposal offer or have the sponsorship quota set. That is, the sales task is dependent on two tasks: prospect list and ready sponsorship presentation. Reflect about all the activities depending on each other is an excellent way for you to have smaller tasks well sorted and defined, thus creating a better workflow as well. This is great for project management. Many tasks and project management software, instead of placing tasks dependent on each other, create subtasks, which is the same in a way for practical purposes. However, this does not prevent you from having subtasks and interdependent tasks in the same project in your event timetable. Here's what happens. Remembering the task dependencies can be related to the completion or beginning of the task. For example, you can start sales without having the sponsorship presentation finished, but you obviously cannot submit the proposal without it. Therefore, the sales task has its conclusion dependent on the making sponsorship proposal task, but not its beginning. But then I'm getting into a greater complexity that is not the purpose of this lesson. Two other concepts that you might consider including are about task cost and allocated time. That is, how much the task can cost to complete and how long you actually worked on it, respectively. Cool. Now you have the most common fields. I believe that this is the basics that you need to have schedules to start and set up management structures minimally enough to manage your team. Let's draw the big picture here. Reviewing some of the literature regarding event planning and management, we find several frameworks to divide the different stages and production phases of an event timetable. The very well-known Donald Gantt, professor at the University of Calgary and the editor-in-chief of Event Management and International Journal, published a book titled Event Studies, Theory, Research, and Policy for Planned Events. The book states, events by definition have a beginning and an end. They are temporal phenomena, and with planned events, the event program or schedule is generally planned in detail and well published in advance. In order to choose an event planning model, you must define the event type that you want to plan. There are a variety of ways in which you may categorize an event. Ruth Dawson and David Bassett in 2015 divided according to its size: local events, major events, hallmark events, or mega events. I'm not gonna get into details here. You can also categorize it by frequency, geography, or sector. In an attempt to create an index, maybe a research titled Events, Design, and Experience created a typology of events: business and corporate events, related and fundraising events, exhibitions, expositions, and fairs, entertainment and leisure events, festival, government and civil events, hallmark events, marketing events, meeting and convention events, social/life cycle events, and finally sports events. There is a website called Events Management Book of Knowledge, or EMBOK, which attempts to consolidate the events industry in a series of procedures backed by research. We're going to discuss about them in the last lesson. They split the timeline in 5 phases: initiation, planning, implementation, event, and closure. During each phase, the event team performs different tasks. The events and the closure phase may be regarded as part of the implementation. One of the most famous frameworks from Ian Yeoman identifies 4 major stages of event development: the decision stage, the detailed planning stage, the implementation stage, and the evaluation stage. This model of event planning can be adapted to fit the format of any event. These events can range from life stage events such as wedding and graduations to life cycle events such as funerals and birthdays. That was great reviewing literature. Now let's get back to our lesson. With the task structure planned, you should divide your event timeline into phases. To sum it up, I like to use, for example, the most common phase: planning, preparation, pre-production, organization, and post-production. With these steps and what each one means for your event, your role is to sort the task, categorizing them according to the fittest phase. Planning is a stage in which you define your event's objectives and requirements. Preparation is the moment when you list the materials and plan the event timeline. Pre-production is everything that happens before you structure the logistics and delivery of the event. Organization is the day itself and when you are ready setting up your event, venue, and content. Post-production is everything that happens after your event. All of this in an overly simplified way. One concept that I would like to pass on to you now is that of stage gates. This is a technique or model in which you define checkpoints to assess the quality or effectiveness of your project's deliverables and whether or not you allow it to go forward. That is, you can only go from planning to preparation if you have met certain expectations or quality standards. The stage gates creates a checkpoint for you to evaluate, okay, did I comply with minimum quality and delivery in this stage so I can proceed? In the guide to this technique, the author, Robert Cooper, says it needs a committee for evaluation and validation. Of course it's ideal, but perhaps the manager and the leader can be the evaluators. The central idea here is to define from step to step what are the minimums. Over time, you refine these criteria and adapt to the unique style of your company or yours of organizing events. For example, you can only go from preparing to pre-production if you have a list of 100 companies with contact information to approach for commercial sponsorship, or a list of 50 possible speakers from your city with contact info and a schedule with those responsible and deadlines for all tasks involving all the areas, the design of the graphic material, done and approved, and so on. Cool. When setting this up, I suggest you start with a checklist of at least 3 to 5 bullet points. Create a document called Event Organization Manual and improve as you gain experience, improve it's valid and what goes wrong. After about 3 editions, you will have an incredible model to work with and you will see that the organization of your events will be much smoother and less stressful, and you will spend more time improving the quality of your delivery. Of course, it's worth mentioning that very different events will require a different organization manual as well. And the steps I used here are just examples. I use others myself. This is a backbone of every event. Depending on what you use as a quality measure, it can change. For most of my events, which are content and educational events, I have preparation, content, communication, schedule, pre-production, organization, and post-events. Notice that I have 7 stages, but this is due to the characteristics of my event and what I care about. Entering now the main mistakes that people make when they plan event timeline. When preparing the schedule, not worrying about estimating the duration and effort of the task and not making it very clear when it's done. Not thinking about the sequence of dependent tasks that culminate in your events and not prioritizing them. If a task in this sequence gets delayed, your event will be postponed, or you have to go faster with the other tasks, resulting in a lower quality. Underestimating time of marketing and promotion of an event that depends on the audience attendance and underestimating time to confirm speakers and content. Especially for beginners, take the time to attract an audience. In case of overestimating, you gain some time to increase the quality of your event. Not dedicating time to deal with suppliers, speakers, and the like. It's not just inviting and trusting them. You need to check with them often. Ignoring and not visiting the schedule on a recurring basis with the team. Everyone needs to know where they stand transparently. Cool? Did it make some sense? I hope so. There was a lot. Planning an event timetable is a delicate and complex part, but I believe I have covered some interesting points. There's a lot more I can say. You can ask me in the comments. There wasn't much room for stories today because I knew the subject was dense, but I have some good ones to tell, and I hope to be able to share some day in the future with you. As we say in my hometown, better than that, just twice that. To recap what we saw in this class. We discovered what a timeline is in the concept of events and the most different ways to assemble and implement one. We went through the concept of stage gates and how this technique can help you in the short term to increase the quality of your events. Finally, we talk about the 5 biggest mistakes that people make in preparing and following up on the schedule. In the next lesson on how to set up a budget, we will talk about my problem with current budget models, the budget ladder, and how to prepare your budget. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and follow the lessons. Hit the like button if you believe if this class helped you. Share with your coworkers and colleagues so they can follow this too. Always look both ways. See you in the future.